Yeah, so we might as well get stuck in, I think. So hopefully you all know the three wonderful artists that are part of the 5 of Towards Strangeness, and I'm hoping that the questions I've formulated sort of spark your interest and that you get something out of it. But as I say, by all means, if you've got a burning question or something, a directive, please do let me know. So we'll just start by asking each individual. You can respond, Prue, Kathryn, Kyla, and maybe you don't want to answer all the questions, but here we go. So Prue, what are your favourite aspects of printmaking?
I can't think of any things that I don't like doing except additioning. So, but my favourite is when I first made my plate and I don't know how it's going to print, and I roll it through the press and I lift that paper and I see what happens. That's really my favourite thing about printmaking.
Kathryn, have you got a favourite part or a particular? Yeah,
I think what really drew me to printmaking was the drawing aspect of it. Probably my primary passion is drawing, and then when I learned printmaking, I saw that there was this, well, you can have a strong drawing component there. So that's a big part of it. And I quite like using tools and collecting tools and things like that. My dad's a builder, so I like kind of going around op shops and finding tools that I can use for dry pointing and that.
So when go on.
Sorry. Like Prue, I enjoy the surprise that you get when you pull that first print off a plate. Yeah.
And Kyla?
Hi. I think initially back in art school days, I really enjoyed the communal aspect of printmaking and having the opportunity to bounce ideas off each other and see a variety of different processes happening, because printmaking is so rich in all the different techniques that are available. But I also love the kind of meditative states that I tend to get into with my mezzotints in particular, just working away, and it's a copper plate and it's reflective and quite beautiful. But yeah, Prue and Kathryn have both put up that wonderful point of drawing back the felts and seeing what the plates turned up and how that can lead to other explorations as well.
Thank you. Well, I suppose that kind of leads into the next question. So, Prue, do you use intuition? Do you get in the flow with printmaking? Because I often think, and excuse my ignorance, all you wonderful printmakers that are present, I haven't really had a go at it, but it's obviously something that you get into and get quite addicted to somehow. And but I kind of, somehow it seems much more kind of, there's a structural kind of process, and so I'm fascinated to hear how intuition and flow come in when there's a structure, but obviously it does, but can you comment on that?
Well, I use intuition in most everything in my life, basically. It pretty well rules my life. So I do have an idea, and it's the drawing that I use the intuition with more, and the inking, you know, because the plate can look quite different, inked up in different ways. So yes, I do use intuition a lot. Yeah.
You really got to get to know, yeah, I suppose the quantity and how you're applying that ink can end up with such a different effect. So
sometimes with solar plate, some areas don't print up as well, or don't. So I have to work out ways of making that area work without having to redo the whole thing. But or I just might want a swish of ink, so I do a bit slight monoprint feel to it. Yeah, but the plate tells me what to do basically. Yeah.
Interesting. Kathryn?
Yeah, I think I've learnt to trust the process or the plate, because I think when I was starting to learn printmaking, I had an idea of the image that I wanted. I'd draw on the plate, I'd pull that first print, I'd get that surprise, and I think that's not what I was making. Then I'd work back into the plate, pull it a second time, and realize I'd just ruined the plate. So it's kind of, yeah, really just knowing that I need to give the work some time, not judge it on that first glance, and know that it's going to go off in a direction that I might not have been expecting it to. Yeah.
I suppose it's similar as well in any art process. You can often, it's hard to know when to stop, isn't it? And you can end up overcooking it one way or another. And quite often people, when they come and look over your shoulder or see something in progress, I know I've done it with painters, I'll say, stop there, you know. But, you know, it's a tricky thing to make that call on, isn't it? So that's interesting that the same thing applies in printmaking. Yeah, I suppose it would. Kyla.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Kathryn, you go if you.
No, I was just going to agree with you.
Yeah, for me, I think it comes out when I'm working out the composition. The sort of, yeah, trusting my instincts around that, and like the others have touched on again, knowing when to just leave a plate and not overwork it, or maybe what other process that you might be able to add to it, like it might something like sheen collé, or doing a roll up over the top to help balance things out in some way. Yeah.
Oh, cool. No, that's really interesting. So Prue, what research do you do before you get down to printmaking?
I do some reading. Actually, I'm reading this right at the moment, only because my friend bought it for me. And I thought, I must get this out because I've been looking at plants and trees and things, and yeah, and so
what's that book called? Is it a book, just a book on plants, is it? Florageum. It's about Cook's treasures and his first voyage. Yeah. And so that's what I'm looking at right at the moment. But yeah, no, I'm always searching and looking, and yeah, just you never know where you're going to find something, you know. So yeah, it's always interesting. Yeah, you never stop, do you? No, I suppose curious minds, creative minds, you constantly also sort of seemingly in tune or tuned in to kind of looking. Yeah, always looking. Yeah, Kathryn. And how other artists have treated that subject matter, and yeah, just sort of if you look at some other artists, then it's not that it just seems filters in, and you use it your own way. You know what I mean? It's just sort of comes out. Also, if I'm like, when I was making these, I made some druids, which are, you know, tree spirits. Well, I was watching Game of Thrones, so it sort of influenced. It came out in a druid, and that, and tree spirits, and how important they are actually. Yeah. So there's sort of everything influences you, don't they? And, yeah, as well, active as well as subconsciously. Thank you, Prue. Kathryn.
Yeah, a lot of my research is I'll go for a walk with the camera and just take photos as I'm going along, and then if there's something that I want to draw, like with the dogs or people, I'll sit down with the sketchbook and just draw a lot of them. It's that kind of that hokusai 100 views of a mountain. So I'll do it like 50 drawings of a dog to figure out how to draw a dog kind of thing. Yeah, so I do a lot of that. And some of my research for photos is going on to Google and, finding photos that I can draw from there. Yeah.
Well, especially when you're using the silhouette quite a bit, that you know, a slight shift in the way the dog leg is, or, you know, could make a whole different feel and as a silhouette, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's some plates that end up just looking like a blob of ink as opposed to the actual thing.
Yeah, so how many plates would you, I mean, you know, I remember doing a course with Max Gimblett, and he would only let us take so many away. You had to throw the rest away. So, you know, I didn't think about you wasting plates, but not wasting them. No, that's not the right word, is it? But yes, you do have quite a bit of wastage then.
I do. Like I do lots of drawing on paper before I start, and then I figure out compositions for plates, then put them onto the aluminium. I'm lucky I work with aluminium that's quite cheap and easily available. But to help myself not be so anxious about making a work for a show, I will often do extra plates. I'll sit down and make 5 plates for if I need one work kind of thing. And that yeah, makes me more relaxed about the process, but I won't always get 5 good prints out of that. Yeah, there will be duds.
Thanks, Kathryn. Kyla, your research.
Yeah, my research. I think sometimes I'll research technique if I'm going to do something that's a little bit new or something I haven't done for a while. You know, I've got lots of workbooks, so I'll go back and reference works that I've done in the past as well if I want to recapture or use that same process or have a similar sort of feeling. And I also go out with the camera and take images, and that's a great resource. And I think I'm often drawn to treescapes and landscapes and places. So I may also look into something like the National Archives or the National Library online resources, and it's just seeing historical photographs and stuff, and that all sort of feeds into the sense of place that I get from somewhere.
And I suppose as your work has a slightly political, or no, that's probably not, ecological concerns, I suppose, you know, you must research that aspect as well, obviously, and things that.
Yeah, I think I naturally do a lot of reading around that subject because it interests me. And yeah, I definitely turn to books. I've been reading one recently called The Hidden Life of Trees, and it's fantastic to think of the way that ecosystems interrelate in ways that we don't fully understand and we don't actually always see as well.
Yeah, I've got that on my book list actually.
Yeah.
Okay, Prue, so how is paper your silent partner, or do you not have, I mean, I'm presuming you do consider paper as one of your silent partners.
So I normally use one type of paper, but yeah, no, paper can make a big difference to the image, and how the paper I use tends to pill, so it's a bit difficult. If I make a mistake, then that's it. But some papers you can rub back and use in quite a different way and be quite rough. But Stanley, in my interview with Stanley, he talked about likening things to something else. It's like if you're going to make a flowy silk dress, I mean a flowy top, you'd use silk, or, you know, like it depends on what you want the look, what type of paper. If you want a fine washi paper or a heavier paper with lots of embossing, it just depends the effect. So paper is crucial actually to the image and how I use it.
Yeah.
Actually, Prue, if I can interrupt, of course I'm the octogenarian here. Well, is it septuagenarian, nearly to be 75. And of course I met Prue back in 1981 when I trained her to be an art teacher. But printmaking was so vastly different when I was at Elam. And even with, you mentioned Stanley, and it was all to do with the bamboo engravings, the actual technique and the place. It didn't have the kind of messages that you women convey in your prints today. Do you know what I mean? It's so much more complex now. You know, in those early days, you kind of did printmaking about places, locations, or whatever. And so I'm totally fascinated by how printmaking has flourished and blossomed over the years, and the sheer richness of the field. And of course, I've got quite a few of Prue's prints, but you see, I'm a cat mother. I have many of her animal prints, all those weird cats doing things.
Yes, well, you talk about it moving and shifting going forward there, Jill, but I mean, it's got such a rich history going back too, doesn't it? Which is quite fascinating. I haven't really spent much time reading or researching, but yeah, I've seen it referenced a few times.
Yeah, well, I'm an art historian as well, so I've got a good handle on the history of printmaking. And then it led to Elam when I had Rachel Mason as my printmaking lecturer. And, you know, that's the dark ages back in 1969 when I was at Elam. I just love the way that everything's changed, developed, the sheer virtuosity of the techniques, the medium, the ways of working that you women, you know, participate in. So exciting.
Thanks, Jill. So, Kathryn, do you have an affinity or a particular relationship with paper?
Yeah, I'm one of those printmakers that's a little bit stuck in her ways. I've come across a paper that I like and I just tend to use it all the time. I think, yeah, because with printmaking, there's so many variables in it. Changing things around can throw everything out of whack. So for me, I've sort of like just found this one paper and I've stuck with it.
That's your constant. Yeah, well, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it, huh?
Exactly.
Thanks, Kathryn. What about you, Kyla?
Yeah, paper is so vital in it. It lends so much to the image, or not at all if you've picked the wrong paper for that process, and it can be quite a take a bit of troubleshooting if you're not quite sure what's going to work. So I also have a preferred paper, and it's yeah, it works really well with mezzotint and dry point. But because I also do embossing, I've done a bit of experimentation, and I'm quite keen to try using some Japanese paper with some of the processes as well, just because it has such a different quality and translucency in some cases. So yeah, it opens up lots of possibilities depending on the effect you want and the technique that you're using, I think.
And so can you source Japanese papers here in New Zealand easily enough?
Yeah, there was a wonderful paper place in Christchurch, and it sadly recently closed. So they had a good range, and I had some in stock from that, but we can get them imported. Like there's Awagami factory in Japan and a couple of places in the US and Canada. So yeah, I think it's still an option. It will just be slower these days.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, well, we're sort of, the next question was, do you stick with the same print methods? But I think we've kind of covered off a bit of that already, haven't we, really? Obviously it's a personal thing, and some people like to explore and try things out. I mean, if you have anything to add to that, by all means jump in, but nothing forthcoming.
I think that the physicality of printmaking is well, something I've noticed I have to consider a bit more. Like working into a metal plate takes quite a lot of concentrated time, and it's quite hard on your body sometimes. So it's good to be able to, I find personally, it's nice to be able to work on a plate and leave that and then go and do something else that's maybe part of a printing process for another technique or something, and it just eases that burden slightly because it's all being done directly by hand. And yeah.
That point in my interview with Stanley, he said he paints now because it's printmaking so physically demanding, he can't do it anymore. So yeah, it's quite physically demanding.
Okay. Another question I had for all three of you is, do you have happy accidents during the process? And again, I think we've possibly covered off that does happen, but maybe is there a particular one that you'd like to share, that, or anything that you want to add to that?
If I do have a little accident, like sort of something doesn't work out with photopolymer though, once you've made the plate, that's it really. So but how to process it or get the image on it, I can get a lot of happy accidents with that, sort of, because I like quite watery marks, or so that I've encouraged that, you know, splashing water and using different chemicals that is not initially what you're supposed to do. So yeah, because I like it sort of flowing and splashy, sometimes I recreate the splash and the accident. Yeah.
Cool. Kathryn, have you got anything specific to add, or Kyla, about happy accidents?
Yeah, I think sometimes I might expect something to turn out a certain way, and it's not quite a happy accident. It maybe doesn't do what I expect, but then it leads on to me exploring a slightly different approach, and that might open up a whole new way of working. So yeah, that's definitely happened a few times, and recently I couldn't use my arm very well, so I had to just completely change my approach to making plates for a while, because working into metal was too hard on it, and I enjoyed the freedom that gave me. So yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I'm probably most of it goes back to that the surprise when you look at the plate for the first time. It can be a good surprise or a bad surprise, you know. And yeah, so that's about it.
So another question I had, so Prue, how do you see your work evolving in the future?
Right. Well, just working on a theme, and yeah, just following through. So one image follows from one to another. With lockdown though, it's been a bit difficult because I haven't been able to go out and use some of the like photocopying and things like that. So I've had to use things that I've got in my studio. So yeah, so I've been doing a lot more drawing and and just going back to basics. But I've just been, my next show will be the Christmas show, so I'm just cutting up prints and doing things with that, just sort of fiddling really. But yeah, no, I'm always making something, or you know, and it influences the next image, what I've done the last one, whether it's that I discard it or think it's good, I don't know.
Thanks, Prue. Kathryn?
Earlier on in the year, I did a course with Kathy Boyle on waterless lithography, and I'm able to use the same aluminium plate that I use for dry point to do that process. So I'm trying to learn that, and I've had that realization when you're learning something, you might have to actually go right back to the beginning. So I'm in that very frustrated phase where things are constantly going wrong, and I'm feeling like I'm wasting a lot of time, but it's also quite exciting because I can see the potential with it. Yeah. And it's like Kyla was saying, that printmaking can be hard on your body. I have the same issues with dry pointing, because you're scratching into a metal plate, and I've ended up with RSI and things like that. So I can see with this waterless lithography process that if I can get it to work, then I'm just drawing with Indian ink onto the plate, and it'll be a lot easier on me. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's always fun to be learning. I think as a creative, you know, you can't stand still, or you're going backwards, really. So as you say, it might be challenging, but you know, it seems to be that you're always curious, and it's a matter of keeping moving, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've got ideas for big prints that I want to make, and the thought of having to scratch a big dry point plate just makes me hurt before I even start. So the thought of being able to draw it just seems so much more enjoyable.
Oh, sounds cool. Sounds fascinating. Yeah. Kyla.
I have got a lot of dry points I'd like to make in the next wee while, and but I would like to incorporate Japanese paper and have a play with having some colour coming from the back as well, perhaps. So don't know how that's going to go, but I do like the way that working on one plate will often spark ideas for the next one and the next one, and or as Prue said, also make you think, oh, I'm sick of working that way, let's do something different for a while. So yeah, and I'm keen to try sheen collé. I've just been I've had a little dabble in the past, but yeah, I'd enjoy committing to that and seeing what results you get, because you paste a paper at the same time as printing. So it has the ink on it from a plate, but it adheres to a support paper, and so it may be a slightly different colour, and you just get this shift of depth in the work, I think.
Yes, I've heard about the process. Again, I've never tried it, but no, it sounds fascinating. So we might just open it up now to anybody who might have any questions to throw at these wonderful artists. Linda.
First of all, girls, I'd like to congratulate you on such an intelligent and soulful exhibition. I think it's got a quiet, it's peaceful, but when you really look at some of the work, it's quite confronting in its kind of depth. I think it's a lovely exhibition. I have a question about two things. I'm a painter, to those who don't know me, but I majored at Elam in photography, and I love that magic in the darkroom, because we, you know, loaded our own films, processed and did all that, and how you can manipulate, it's got to be good to start with, and how you can manipulate an atmosphere. And then I lost interest as digital photography came in and switched to painting, and I just love that kind of process of research and application and trial and error. So leads me to my first question. Have the printmakers here persevered with an idea, but then happily discover that a completely different method of printing produces exactly what they intended? So you talk about, you know, dry point and would there often or sometimes be this aha moment of, oh my God, I should have just done it as a so-and-so kind of a print?
That's a great question. For me personally, I think having an idea of how an image will turn out as a print, and it not working that way, it has, it hasn't led to something new, but it's maybe realised that I wasn't really respecting or knowing, maybe I was a bit naive about the qualities of that particular style of printmaking and what the image would be best suited to, and it maybe would have worked better as as a monoprint, or so trying to do something that didn't quite suit the imagery. But sometimes you get a great result that's just a different to what you expect as well. So it depends how it turns out.
Mm.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah,
I have one more sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I jump around through different sort of artistic practices. So quite often, if an idea I don't think it's suited for printmaking, it might end up being a drawing or a writing kind of idea, or yeah, I probably get around it that way, as opposed to
And isn't
trying to
it
get it
lovely
out.
when you can put the idea to rest, you know, like you feel as though you've done your best. And sometimes, you know, much later down the track, you pick the idea up again in a different way.
It's true.
Yeah, when I look back on my work, I see that there's a cyclic kind of process to it. I'll pick up ideas that I've kind of had, you know, 10 years ago, and then, you know, they'll come back into my work again in a different way.
Oh, that's lovely. Do you ever look at a work that you've done some in the past and you go, how did I do that? I've forgotten all about how I did that. Do you ever have those moments?
Yeah, in my final year at art school, I did these quite large multi-block woodcuts. And I look at those and I know that now I probably wouldn't be able to print them, but I've lost that skill of inking a wood block. Or it'd take me ages to get it back. Yeah.
Yes. No, I've got a print where I've embossed the background, and I wondered how I did it.
Yeah.
Has anyone else got any questions to put out there? Curious about something? Or any comments, your own experiences, because I think you are mostly all printmakers, so feel free to pitch in and yeah, I'd love to hear other people's practice or process or inspiration. Or
Hello, Kathryn.
Oh, hello. Can you see me? This is my first Zoom meeting, so I'm not quite sure what I should be doing.
So Kathryn's a screen printer.
I'd just like to make a comment about how impressed I am with you all still continuing to work under these COVID conditions. I just admire you so much for doing that, because it must be so hard to keep those creative juices going.
I suppose having a deadline might help.
Deadlines help, Kathryn.
Sorry?
Deadlines help.
Yes.
That said, it is kind of tricky at times, motivating yourself when you think it might not happen, you know. With the first lockdown that we had, I found it very hard to make work. I just was unmotivated for it. The last lockdown that we had, I did have the benefit of having deadlines, and so that got me into the studio and getting things done.
Yeah, I found the lack of certainty around lockdowns really demotivating. It was quite hard. But more recent, with the recent one, I was in a funny position where I didn't have a space to work in, and I had a press that was about this big. So a lot of my work's been small recently, just because I was trying to work within those constraints. And yeah, it was interesting appreciating how important it is to be able to access materials and things as well. And so that was impossible or delayed also.
And how did you feel about having a virtual opening as opposed to a physical opening for the show?
Well, we
I
have
think,
actually had, we've had a physical one actually, Kathryn. We decided to hang it,
Oh, did you?
and
Yes.
we decided we'd do what we could. So Prue's been amazing. She's taken a video of the whole show. She's had an interview with Stanley Palmer. We're doing this Zoom. We're doing one-on-one viewings like the real estate agents do, following MOH guidelines. So we've had one-on-one people coming. So we've got sales happening online via the website and in the gallery.
Oh, that's
so
good.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then we
we've
had a
sold-
lovely,
we sold
that's
9
great.
works.
we had a lovely visit from Ina, and I think Ina's got a question, and Ina wrote a beautiful article actually on the show. So after this, do jump on the website and have a look either on Ina's website or Railway Street, and yeah, there's a great description of the work. So yeah, Ina, what was your question?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Fiona, for organising this talk, and thank you, the artists who could make it. It's great, and being able to see the show was just such a wonderful breath of fresh air. You know, us up in Auckland are really suffering with this lockdown, and to be able to go and see art in the flesh was just wonderful. So thank you, Fiona, and Kyla and Prue and Kathryn, and for putting together such a beautiful show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have a question for Kathryn and Kyla relating to what you were saying about printmaking becoming, it can be really physically challenging, and it can sometimes even come to a point where you actually can't create the works that you know, want to create. And I was just wondering, like, how would you feel about, you know, collaborating with another printer to help create the plates? Or is it really important that you create the plates? Like, how would that affect your process? Like, would you consider that, or is it something that you wouldn't consider because you have to create the plate yourself? That's a really important part of the process. I'm just curious.
I think I'd still want to make the plate, just the process that I use. I don't think I'd be comfortable with someone else doing that. I used to work for a printmaker in Wanganui, and I printed plates for her, did editioning of prints and things like that. So I'm sort of more comfortable with that side of it once the plate's made, kind of doing the jobbing part of getting the edition printed. I think what I learnt when I had my kind of RSI or OOS shoulder problems, I just had to take better care of myself. It was my body saying, you can't be obsessive about this. You can't spend 8 hours scratching on a plate. You actually need to get up and have a break. And it makes a more healthier life if I do that. Yeah.
Thanks, Kathryn. Kyla.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy making the plate and working with different tools and things. So because it seems like such a direct process, I think I prefer to have it printed by somebody else. But yeah, I'd really miss that, and maybe I'd just adapt my practice to do something different if I couldn't work directly on a plate. Having said that, though, you know, there's some quite nice transfer monoprint processes that will give an immediate drawn image, and that's a lot easier on the body. So that was something I experimented with earlier in the year. I had a chance years and years ago. I lived in Montreal for a little while and joined a wonderful print studio there called Atelier Circulaire, and they had a master printer who was just there most of the time, and she said, oh, shall I proof your plates for you? And I at the time thought, oh, I don't want to take up your time with you printing my little plates, but I wish I'd done it, because it would have been really interesting to see that difference in someone else printing them as well, because that lends a lot to the image. Also, like Prue said at the beginning, how much you wipe back a plate and your approach to inking will definitely determine parts of the image. Yeah.
Thanks, Kyla. Belinda, you're a great printmaker now, aren't you? Have you got any questions or anything you'd like to share in terms of your experience with your printmaking? You busy doing it at the moment, or?
Yeah, I'm doing, yes, I was up until a bit of a mix of painting and printmaking at the moment, because yeah, I kind of have to change my studio space depending on what I'm doing, because my studio space isn't big enough for both. But yeah, I've been doing small prints a bit the same as you know, just when you've got limited kind of amounts of paper and you don't want to run out. But so smaller prints and mono prints. So yeah. So it's interesting hearing different processes and different ways of making prints, and how at different times in the process, you know, how you're working and what sort of prints you make, and different techniques affect the prints, but also the way you work. It's quite interesting to listen to everybody, different processes.
Is it a bit like having, especially if you're more experienced and you've tried several different things out, it's almost, you know, obviously you've got your favorites, but I can imagine, is it a bit, oh, which one or how, or, you know, or do you just get in a rhythm with one and as some of you do, just stick with that? Prue, you've got a favourite way of working.
I do. But I'm getting a bit worried because I use a photosensitive polymer plate that is being not made anymore. So I change makes or brands, and then that one goes out of manufacture. So I'll probably have to yes, start looking at other ways of printing. Yes.
So is that sort of like a fashion thing with different types of printmaking, that obviously it's not necessarily a popular way of working at the moment?
Some of the stuff that we use, like the aluminium plate that I used to get, it came from the newspaper printing press in Wanganui. And they've now centralised the printing of newspapers to Auckland. So I don't have access to that plate here anymore. So I think, yeah, sometimes our materials come from the commercial sort of printmaking processes. And if those processes go out of fashion or get changed, then we have to find kind of new ways of doing things.
So do they still use aluminium plates for printing newspapers?
I think so. I'm not sure. They shut down the press in Wanganui, and they said they were being printed up in Auckland, but I'm not sure if they're still using the plates up in Auckland or not. Yeah.
It's not aluminium as you think of aluminium. It's wafer thin. It's amazing they can even get an image on it to print off. It's just like,
I got a piece here.
Thick tin foil.
Yeah, they're so offset printers use them.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that often things come from the commercial world. And I remember at art school, we always had a lot of purple ink. And that was because we were along the road from the Cadbury's factory, and they would donate their half-empty tins.
Very good. Oh, well, has anyone got anything else they'd like to throw out there of all this wonderful talent and font of knowledge? I mean, you know, you feel free to share or add anything, and otherwise we'll call it quits for tonight and maybe reconvene another time. Maybe one of you have got a subject or a practice, or I don't know, maybe you can give us some feedback and ideas. If you'd like to reconnect via Zoom, then we can always have another session.
I think it's great.
You painting as well, Linda.
Yes, I am painting as well.
Got a minute to
I
waste.
tell the group, oh my God, I've got to be at my cabinet maker with this thing in the morning by 9 a.m. Well, I'm lucky I pushed my show back from the 13th of November to the 4th of December, so I've just been let off.
Oh, very good. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you very much, artists, and thank you for all our visitors, and lovely to see you all. And hope.
And thank you for hosting it.
Oh, you're welcome. So no, do get in touch with Prue, anyone who's in Auckland, or even if you're out of Auckland and want to come to our, interesting city that we're going through. You might not be able to, but anyway, there's also there's some lovely work online if you haven't had a chance to look, as well as blogs, and there's YouTube stuff. So yeah, do keep in touch, and
Well, good luck to everybody.
yeah. All right.
Thank you, Fiona.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much to everyone.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
nice to see your face, Tony, but maybe next time.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
I'm finished my dinner, so I could actually go on video, but yeah, I haven't changed. I look the exact same as the last time you saw me, Fiona, I promise. Anyway, lovely talk. Thank you all very much. Yeah, lovely way to spend
thank
Sunday
you.
evening. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, all the best, everyone. Talk again.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
for now.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Fiona. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.